Madam Chair, we are streaming live on YouTube and recording on Zoom. You may begin when you're ready. You can wait.
There we go. All right. Good morning, everyone. All right, it is 8:30, so calling this meeting to order. Welcome and good morning to Metro Plan Orlando TSMO meeting. I will call the meeting to order. My name is Christina Colon, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is in person. It's important for all TSMO members to attend our meetings in person. So all committee members are asked to be present in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom for us to have a quorum. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public attend in person who want to speak need to fill out a comment card and give it to Rachel. Those attending on Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. We also accept comments by email and phone message before the meeting. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Eric Hill, Metro Plan Orlando staff, for an agenda review.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chairman and committee members in the room and online. It is good to see you all, as always. A few announcements that I'd like to go over. The first one is that we will be having our 2050 MTP Summit on April the 9th. It will be at Lake Mary Event Center. And this is an opportunity for all of us to have input on our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This is the biggest thing that we as an agency do for our community. We'll get more information on this event from Taylor Laurent, who will be giving a presentation during tech. So if you can, if your schedule allows, please stay to listen and hear her presentation and make comments or ask questions if you like. The next item, we do have a FHWA a speed limit setting handbook that's available. There's the link to it. The other item on this is the Compto Careers in Transportation for Youth internship. This is an opportunity for you as an agency to host a student who may want a career or looking for a career in transportation. I've been, I'd like to say, a lifelong member of the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials. It feels like I've been a member all my life because it's been over 30 years. But this is one of the organizations, associations that I'm very proud of. And one of the things that I'm proud that they do is they do culture youth in transportation. And just as a personal note, my youngest child was one of the recipients of this internship. He has not pursued a career in transportation, but it at least exposed him to what I do or what I do now and how I pay for his education and his development. So he knows, you know, what is involved and he has been able to be exposed to it. And as an intern, he worked for the Tampa Hillsborough Expressway Authority and was able to participate in one of their bond openings. So he understands now what it costs to run a transportation system, how to build facilities, because most people think that the road was always there. They never give thought to the fact that it had to be planned, it had to be paid for, it had to be built. And now it has to be maintained. So, so if you are interested in hosting a student, there is information on this organization or this internship for you. There will be a CAC webinar on Cycling Savvy at 9:30 on Wednesday, March 19th. Our own Mike Wilson will be doing the webinar. And for those that have participated in this in the past, you know it's worthwhile, especially if you're a cyclist or considering moving into that area. Next, for our maintaining agencies, consider the new corridors or intersections that you would like to have us retimed. We are at that point where we want to start the next round. So give some thought to that, and I'll be following it up with an email to you on this. And then the last item, for those that use I-4 managed lanes, you know that now they've gone to dynamic tolling. So now we do see how congestion does impact your cost for travel. So Madam Vice Chair, that concludes my comments.
All right, thank you. Next, we have item 4, agency reports. This is an opportunity. Oh,
We have safety month for the month. My bad.
okay, all right.
Thank you, Eric, and good morning, everyone. And Eric, I'm sorry, I have to do a little correction. My presentation, my webinar for the CAC is actually something I call Bicycle Planning 101. It's going to look into the data, the factors that contribute to bicycle transportation and to crashes, to give our CAC members a good grounding on that whole picture. So, and to that point, starting tomorrow is Florida Bicycle Month, and our safety moment this time around is diving a little more in depth into lighting and the effect of darkness on crashes and how we remedy that. About a quarter of bicyclist travel happens at night, but over half of our fatalities are at night. And you can see nearly 3/4 of the overtaking fatal crashes are at night. We've got actually exposure data that shows us that for fatal and serious crashes, they're 5 times higher risk for an overtaking crash at night. Some trend data that's a little concerning is that over the past 10 years, while daytime crashes were up 10% and KSI is 4%, for nighttime, it's up significantly more. I don't really have an answer for that yet. I'm kind of leaning toward that it might have to do with e-bikes, but we'll have a better idea on that when the new PED bicycle crash analysis tool that's going to be implemented in the Signal 4 system is coming online soon, and we'll be able to differentiate between e-bikes and other bikes and get more fine-grained on that and find out what's going on. So how do we remedy this? Well, headlights and taillights are essential. They're required by law. Headlights are necessary not only by law, but by practicality. Reflectors only work when they're directly in front of the car. And most crashes, the bicyclist is not in front of the car until a moment before impact. So a headlight is essential. And when it comes to taillights, it's really important to mount the light on the bicycle. If it's on your person or on some sort of fabric, you know, it can flop around and not really be directed straight back. If it's mounted to the bicycle, and you can then ensure that it's parallel to the ground, that the motorist is going to get the brightest image of you as they're coming up from behind. So that concludes my safety moment for this month. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay. Next, we have item 4, agency reports. This is an opportunity for any of our partner agencies to speak to the committee. If any of our partners wish to provide updates during this slot, please let Rachel or Eric know via email at least a week prior to the TSMO meeting. Today, we have Jonathan Scarf for our regular report out from FDOT.
Good morning, Madam Chair and TSMO committee members. I have a few items for you this morning. First, starting with community outreach. We have 2 public meetings in the month of March on the early end here. The first will be the resurfacing and pavement restoration of Sand Lake Road, and the limits of that are from OBT to Orange Avenue. That is Thursday, March 6th from 5:30 to 7. And the location is the Art of Random Kindness at 2352 West Oak Ridge. The next opportunity is the resurfacing of State Road 530 from west of 429 to the Reedy Creek Bridge. And that project will also include upgrades to pedestrian curb ramps in accordance with current ADA standards. And that is Wednesday, March 12th, 5:30 to 7 again at Orange Lake Golf Resort, the Wilson Palmer Room. And the last event there that I have is in Seminole County. There'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony in downtown Oviedo on March 6th, and that'll take place at 9:30. and that's for the State Road 426, County Road 419 project. They're completing final striping and signalization at this time. And a few updates from our safety office. In the 9 counties that make up the FDOT District 5, 2014 saw a 15% decrease in fatalities, which represents over 110 lives saved. So that goes to show it's an encouraging reminder of the impact that we have in the area, as well as the incredible work that's being done across Central Florida. On workforce development side, we had the Central Florida Construction Career Days on January 30th and 31st, where we had over 1,500 high school students participate at the Volusia County Fairgrounds. The next event for workforce development is we invite you to attend the Central Florida inaugural Transportation Industry Hiring Event, and that is on April 30th, Wednesday, April 30th from 3 to 7 at the Osceola Heritage Park. And if you're interested in that, I have a flyer following the meeting. I'll make myself available. And in closing, in the near future, we have on May 9th, we have the 2nd annual FDOT Central Florida Safety Summit. And the location for that will be the Daytona International Speedway. And point of contact is Lorraine Bobo, or you can reach out to myself. And pending questions, that concludes my report.
All right, are there any questions?
I do. On the Sand Lake repaving, was that from where to Orange Avenue?
That was from Orange Blossom Trail to Orange Avenue.
Thank you.
All right, any more? All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 5, roll call. Rachel, you may proceed with roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask members to please turn their microphone on just before called and off once they've responded. Barden,
Present.
Crandell for Barkessa,
Here.
Brock,
Here.
Cologne,
Here,
Ide, Elisar,
Present.
Elliott Moore,
Present.
Gordon,
Yeah, present.
Gomez, Homiuni,
Present.
Horn, Hirsch,
Present.
Gwynn,
Present.
Jameson,
Present.
Krug, Lim,
Here.
Lopez,
Here.
McGrath,
Here.
Mendenhall, Nelson, Ortiz, Price,
Present.
Hullum, Sanders,
Here.
Sandler, Smith,
Present.
Tahira,
Present.
Wetzel,
Present.
Martello for Williams,
Here.
Yeager,
Present.
Yeargain.
Here.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Madam Chair, point of order. Could you repeat Sandler again?
Sadler,
Present.
thank you.
Thanks.
all right, thank you. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised online, Madam Chair, and we've received no comments from the room.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a public comment?
No comments received.
Okay. Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. We have one action item today. Members making or seconding a motion, please state your name. Our first item is approval of the January 24th, 2025 TSMO minutes, which are tab 1 in your agenda packets. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
Shad Smith, move to approve.
Second. Tahira.
And second by Tahir. All right, any discussion? It has been properly moved in second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. We have 3 presentations and we will hold questions until each presentation ends. Our first presentation this morning is on Florida's Turnpike Enterprise TSMO project by Mr. Eric Gordon. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair and TSMO committee members. Great team. Good to see you today. I'm actually co-presenting, so I'm going to kick this off and talk a little bit about some of our TSMO initiatives overall. And then I'm going to hand it off to Ernest Saki. He's serving as our program manager at the Turnpike and providing a lot of value for SunTrax coordination and things, testing, a lot of areas of our program, including something really interesting you're going to hear today. So I wanted to start with a little bit of what we're doing in the TSMO program. One of the new things that's come up is the truck parking working group meetings. This is actually a statewide effort. So we got a statewide team together back in January. This is something extremely important to Secretary Perdue. It's one of his highest priorities. And I think in the past, truck parking has been sort of wrapped in freight and logistics, some of that arm of FDOT. And now he really wants us to create a program, call it an actual program. So it's going to be a truck parking program. We had a kickoff with Rudy Powell, our Chief Engineer of Operations, and Kim Holland, who's our Assistant Secretary of Strategic Development. And of course, this was back in January. So our role moving forward is I'm going to participate on the statewide meetings with a multidisciplinary team from every district. So it's not just traffic operations. So I'm a part of traffic operations, but there's right-of-way members, there's members of all different departments who are going to be involved. And internally, we're going to have support teams that get together on a monthly basis to coincide with the statewide teams so we can talk about some of our internal goals and things that we'd like to move forward with truck parking. So that's a great initiative. Look forward to sharing some more as that moves forward. And with our strategic plan update, so we have a continuing services contract with VHB. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have an update for that later this year. What was really great in that third major bullet was we had a workshop and it just took place yesterday. So we had 3 members of FHWA join us yesterday. Ralph Volpe with the US DOT Research Center, Greg Jones with FHWA from headquarters, and also Mark Perry, who's our FHWA out of the Florida office in Tallahassee. We had a great discussion. And the good part about that is it's going to dovetail right into that strategic plan update that we're going to do. So we had a member of VHB participate with us yesterday. And the other thing I wanted to mention about that is we're trying to refocus our strategic plan to be focused on our FDOT compass. For example, if you've gone through a capability maturity model assessment, there's 6 dimensions. None of those dimensions are workforce development directly, but we still want to see how we can, as the FDOT compass, incorporate some of the CMM assessment and make it be part of workforce development as an example. So that was a great workshop yesterday. We had an internal team join us, which we had great discussion. So I added a couple pictures in here. This is from the statewide truck parking team. The picture on the top is a concept of what we can do or trying to do at some of our service plazas. So we're looking at adding additional truck parking spaces. And then the hotspots map on the bottom right was provided by that statewide team. And you can see along the I-4 corridor, parts of Jacksonville and South Florida. So that's just what was provided to us as sort of a kickoff to that statewide meeting I mentioned a minute ago. Next, I wanted to focus a little bit on our performance measures. So we have a quarterly performance measures report we send to central office. This includes information such as safety, crashes, secondary crashes, incident clearance, a lot of these metrics. And so we're always refining it. We're always looking at ways of making it better. In fact, I attended a meeting in Fort Myers for ITS and TSMO, and I think I'm going to steal some ideas off District 1. So they had a really nice reporting system. So we're going to go back and look and see what we can do to enhance what we have in Power BI and some of those other metrics. The queue warning system has been extremely beneficial for us. We presented on it at that Fort Myers meeting earlier this week. Our queue warning system, it's really available to all FDOT districts if they want to pursue that. I know District 5 is using it as a tool and some of the Central Florida partners. One of the locations where we added a DMS sign is up in the top left, and that's on the 429 southbound approaching I-4. And so far, we've had a 75% reduction of rear-end crashes, which is pretty amazing. Some sun guide enhancements, we're always looking at those, trying to make those work for us and make things more efficient for our TMC and our operations. And then we're always striving, we've added a number of wrong way driving systems. We're looking at ways to make those better and more efficient moving forward. So to dovetail to the next topic, Ernest is here and he's going to talk about something really interesting that goes right along with our topic about truck parking and trucks. So I'm going to hand it off. Welcome, Ernest.
Thanks, Eric. So wanted to talk a little bit about a program. We'll call it a pilot. It's more of a 1-year project we're working on with DriveWise. So those of you who don't know, the overview of DriveWise is one of the largest weigh station bypass service that are used by the trucks, most of the commercial vehicles on our roadways. And one of the things that the cool things that they have is they have a platform where they can send telematics information into in-cab services. They have, you can see the second picture on the screen. They have these screens, these tablets in their vehicles that you can push messages directly to that. So what we are doing is working with them to see, and with other states that they've started working on to see what kind of information can we send to these in-cab screens, and then what kind of information, what is the reaction, what are we getting from them? So that's what we are studying. We're about 3 months in, so we don't really have all the data analysis done yet, but this is part of the project that we're working on. Like I said, our goals are trying to provide real-time information to the commercial vehicles, starting slow down ahead, smart alerts, anything that information that we can send to the commercial vehicles directly by pushing the information to the in-cab services devices in their vehicles. The outcomes that we're looking at is reduction in crashes. What are we going to try to see based on research that's been done? The information they are getting, how is drivers reacting to that? Speed reduction, things like that. Based on subsequent slide, you're going to see how information that they are getting, it's affecting the behavior of drivers already, and in other states that have done this thing. So what are these smart road alerts? These are some of the things that we're pushing out. Safety critical information, they're receiving all the information, slow down ahead, if there is vehicles, because commercial vehicles, it takes them a while to brake and all of that. So getting the information ahead helps them to make informed decision. The alerts allow drivers to make proper decisions. They are based on MUTC, the guidelines. So all the alerts that they are getting is based on things that they are seeing on the roadways. We're not creating anything from scratch. So one of the things that we're trying to do in the analytics is to quantify how many alerts they're getting, what are they doing, and what's their reaction from the vehicles they are getting. So we are sending emergency alert, like area-wide emergency, unexpected slowdowns ahead, sudden slowdowns, things like that, traffic information in real time to the commercial vehicles, into their in-cab devices. So it's directly going to the drivers in the vehicles. Some of the insights, like I mentioned, is their behavior. What are they doing when they get information? How hard are they braking? When do they start braking? Do they even react to the information? There's a lot of information that you can drill down and you can get from the behavior of drivers once they get information. And I think it's very useful for an agency for us to, help us identify what are the most, important messages, how drivers, are they even reacting to these messages? This message is important to them, things like that. So that's why this project is really, really eye-opening. Once you start drilling down into the data, it's quite eye-opening. Some of the alerts that we've sent out, like for instance, I-95 closed ahead, the sudden slowdown, major road closures, high wind locations, things like that, that we are able to push to the commercial vehicles. And one of the things we had to do operationally is you have to create an SOP for that. Of course, it's a challenge, to manually, it's a manual process at this time to send the information out. But hopefully in the future with Sangai, enhancement, we'll be able to automate that so that information will automatically go to the commercial vehicles. Location braking frequency, braking severity, these are some of the considerations that we are looking at. So to the references of other states that are working on Ohio DOT, and these are some of the things that came out of the research that was done. Reduction in secondary crashes was very important, and they were able to quantify that up to $40 million in benefits. Benefit cost ratio of 22.5 for reducing congestion related crashes. And then reduced delays by an average of 20.5 hours per mile. So these are quantifiable things that were done. Research was done by Cleveland State, and that's a reference right there in conjunction with DriveWise. So there are tangible benefits that are happening by pushing all these smart alerts to commercial vehicles right now as we speak in Ohio. Same thing is happening with the Indiana DOT. There was a 15%, approximately 50% of tracks within congestion alert had reduced their speeds. So once they get the message, they are reducing, because you can have a clear road ahead and you get a message they started slow down. How are they reacting? At least they are reacting to it. Some of them are reacting. They are starting to do the braking process and slowing down. Approximately 21.2% of tracks received alert are reduced their speed by at least 5 miles within 30 seconds of receiving it. Percentage of congestion alert was reduced by at least 5 miles per hour consistently. The percentage of dangerous slowdown also reduced by 55% within 2 minutes of the alert. So these are tangible things that are happening. And as we do we've only, like I said, we've run the project for only 3 months now. By the end of the year, hopefully we'll come back after we analyze the data to come and show the huge benefits we're getting with that. Now, one of the things, what was the next steps? So our next steps, of course, to develop metrics, make sure the accuracy of the alerts. Metric 1 is percentage of tracks that were already operating at speeds less than 45 miles per hour. When they receive the alerts, what do they do? Metric 2, those that receive the alert and never reduce speed. Also develop an effectiveness of alerting. What percentage of tracks that slow down at least 5 miles per hour within 30 seconds? And then metric 2 is tracks that slowed by at least 5 miles per hour when traveling more than 70 miles per hour. These are the 4 metrics that we are working on in phase 1. And then phase 2, explore reduction in secondary crashes through signal 4. Do cost benefit analysis, compare with the crash data with street light and here data or different sources of data to make sure that what we are getting and from the DriveWise partners with INRIX, and that's how they get their data. But we want to make sure we compare with other sources of data as well. And one of the things that we talked about, track parking, which is a huge, it is one of the challenges we've been given is, can we send track parking information to the in-cab devices of the vehicles? And that is something we are actively exploring because can we even have, to the point where commercial vehicles can reserve a track parking spot ahead before they get to the point? These are some of the things that we are looking at the feasibility of that. If we are able to quantify all the spaces, because with the TPAS, we already have the information of the number of spaces that are available. What are some of the things that we can do since we have the means and the method of sending information to the in-cab devices? And also low bridge alerts. We've had a lot of, issues with, vehicles driving, they're hitting bridges along the corridor. So what can we do by integrating that with the DriveWise to send the message? So these are some of the things that we're exploring, and hopefully within a year we'll come back with some great success stories. Right? Thank you.
Wonderful, very informative. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shaq?
So the screens that are in the trucks, how did you get them in there? And who's paying for that? Or is that part of the program? Kind of curious.
So part of DriveWise, you sign up, the commercial vehicles, they sign up because they use not only for smart road alerts, but they're tracking their how many miles they've traveled and all of it. So it's a program. So that's why
Just kind of piggybacking on.
exactly.
Okay.
So the device is
Cool.
there, we just piggyback on that.
Awesome.
A quick question too.
Any other, yep,
Yeah,
question?
quick question. Thanks, Ernest. Good presentation. Appreciate it. What quantity? So is it like in terms of either a percentage or number? Do you know about how many of the commercial trucks you're targeting, or is there a general number that the majority of commercial trucks you think we're going to have, or this system? Like how many vehicles out there would you be communicating to through this application?
Yeah, we can find out, but as long as they are fitted with DriveWise and Cap device, we are pushing the information.
Right.
So the information, it's free to them. So the information is going out. It's like we're sending the information out. That is why we're trying to analyze the data to see how many of them are actually reacting to the messages, right? Some of them may turn it off. They don't want to, use that information. But by their reaction, like by their slowing down or making other decisions or evasive actions, we will know actually the percentage that we're actually using the information. So that is one of the metrics, like the effectiveness of the message. It's not just by pushing the message and just sitting back, but we want to know how effective is the message as well. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll come back and let you know.
All right, any other questions for
I do.
Eric or Ernest?
My question kind of piggybacks off his a little bit. I'm guessing you would like every commercial truck to have this. What's the percentage right now that you have of, I'm gonna guess the big trucking companies might be the ones that have jumped online, your UPS, your FedEx, your big companies that are actually using the program. Do you have that?
It's still the largest, DriveWise is still the largest, what would I call? Oh. Yeah, that operates weight station bypass service. They're still the largest. I don't have the exact number or the percentage, but it is pretty significant.
Yeah, the vendors shared the numbers with us. We just didn't have it here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they shared, and it's quite a bit. It's not, like you said, it's not every truck, but it's a good percentage of trucks.
But most of your big companies are using this.
Yeah,
Correctly.
yes. Oh, yeah, the big companies,
Got it.
they're requiring that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ernest.
Thank you.
Our next presentation this morning is on the FDOT Regional Integrated Corridor Management System, RICMS, by Mr. Matthew Jukes. All right, Matthew.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. So more the tool behind it, what we're calling the Orlando Digital Twin. I want to just get you guys informed on this because this is a tool that's going to be made available to you, should you wish, through UI to be able to do some analysis. So first giving you the current boundaries of the system. The system is essentially a traffic transportation digital twin that is powered by a simulation engine. So traffic simulation, but it's slightly different than your typical traffic simulation. It's much more robust. It's connected to real-time data. It's connected to historical data sets. And we'll get into a little bit of that as we go. But most importantly, first is the current boundaries. We've got most of Volusia and Seminole County. We at the top, you can see that we're up at the SR 408, 417, and 429, and the boundaries that have it. It's really focused, as it was, the initial tool was for the RICMS. It's really focused around the I-4 corridor being down the middle and that management. And what you can see is anything in blue or red are roadways that have been incorporated into it. The key being is we tied it initially to the Central Florida planning model. So we've got that tied to the demands and that network, and we will be doing an update to the latest version of that model also. So going now through the elements that are in the digital twin. The first thing is we have all the traffic signals that are in the region. And we're connected to the traffic signal systems where they're available so that we can pull in and update the signal timing plans that get continually updated, whether through an optimization plan or whatever, so that we have the full library of plans within the system. So there are 1,541 signals. 606 of them are well aligned and have all the information available through the system. There are 163 that aren't connected to a system, don't have communication. So those are synthetically built into the model. And then we have 770, which are sort of hybrids where we've got what we can and we fill in the gaps. One of the things we will be adding is an NTCIP data interface that will be able to fill those gaps within the hybrid intersections. So that means you have access to all the different signal timing plans that are in the controller to be able to test it with your scenarios. Next, we also have the GTFS, the transit feed that is brought in. So we have all of the transit within the region, 226 transit lines, 4,000 stops, and we import the routes, the stops, the schedules. One of the keys with this is it allows you to understand when you're doing your analysis, impacts on transit, not just on regular vehicles. So if you want to understand how an optimization or a transit signal priority might impact the bus routes, this would give you that information. Also, one of the big keys is the key to being connected to both real-time and historical data sets so that we have a wealth of information there. So we're tied into ITSQA, FDOT's, one of FDOT's data sources. We're also going to be using SunStore to get more information and more updated information as we update the model periodically. And we also have the RITSIS historical data sets. Essentially, we have large quantity data for about 205 locations throughout the model to help us update and understand how things are operating. One of the things with this data is we go through a very robust data analytics process in setting up the model. So this is where we employ AI and machine learning to understand the data. FHWA now, when creating traffic simulation models, has gone away from the typical AM and PM peak hours or typical day and more into a cluster analysis type analysis so that you're not looking at just one day type, but you're actually capturing everything. And we've been doing that for a while. So our process is we look at the historical data, it gets normalized, analyzed, and then we clean it, because if you've ever dealt with traffic data, it's never perfect. There's always gaps. One count doesn't align with another count. So you have to do some understanding of it before you just start using it. So we go through this process to create the patterns. And this is where the digital twin gets very interesting, is we fill in the gaps, and we come up with the different traffic patterns throughout the 24-hour period for essentially all the days of a year. So what you can see here is the colorful graph on the right is essentially the calendar, and any light color means those days have similar traffic demands. But the big key here is within the model, within the tool itself, we have all of these different days calibrated, ready to go, so that you can pick and choose any time period during the year, any day type, and do that analysis, whether you want to analyze from midnight to 6 a.m. or you want to analyze your peak period. You want to see on July 4th because you've got a parade coming and you want to close a road. You've got July 4th in there. So it allows you to sort of test different scenarios over different days, weekends, and things like that, so that you're not just saying, what is my impact going to be during the AM peak period, which is what our analysis, historically, that's what our traffic analysis has sort of pivoted off of. So just very quickly, I know this is sort of boring. This model has gone through robust calibration for the demand calibration, the volume calibrations, and then also making sure on the I-4 that we're capturing all of that congestion. We periodically go through these reviews of, do we still have the calibration correct, fine-tuning things. As we get more and more data, We're working very hard with the different data providers to try and get more data, try and get more third-party data in there to enhance the model more and more. We're able to improve that calibration. But the big part about it is being up to date and being able to understand what's going on and do scenario analysis. So one of the keys is making sure we also understand how the roadway is changing over time. So we go through maintenance cycles where we add the construction projects, the signal timings, the transit, and update the demands. So one of the things we've done over the past year is we made sure we've got the I-4 express lanes in there correctly. We've brought in all of the local construction projects that have been going on. And the other interesting thing we've been in the process of developing and have a prototype ready now is we're connected to the One Network data. So One Network is the permitting system for construction projects that's used within the region. So now you can actually go and select a date and say, okay, next week, what construction projects are what road closures, what lane closures are happening so that I can understand how that's going to impact my network. And do I have an issue coming on? Should there be am I happy with the way things are looking and things like that? And also major projects. So one of the ones we had to bring in because this model was developed in 2019 originally was the I'm going to say it wrong. I know Wakiva interchange. I get corrected on that many times. And bring it in. And we've also brought in the moving I-4 forward geometry changes down by Disney, where essentially when you do your analysis, you can select which phase of the project you want to be the underlying network to see what those impacts and take that into account for your analysis. So I'm going to show a very brief video if you want to start it. Essentially, this is a UI that we're going to be updating and enhancing for use in scenario testing. The idea is you're able to build your scenarios by creating, first of all, the impact that you want to analyze. Right now, it's really about freeway incidents, but you can do this on any roadway where you can do a closure of sections of lanes on sections. You can then also create your traffic management plans that you want to put into place, whether it's adding a diversion route because you want to reroute traffic around this. So you can say, here's my diversion route, here's my anticipated force people who I'm going to force over. And then on my diversion route, I'm going to go and I'm going to change the signal timing. Normally it would be running plan 4, but I've imported a new plan 56, which is my strategy for flushing. And I'm going to see how that plan works. Because you want to make sure these strategies, when you put them all together, are actually going to work before you put them in the field. If you put them in the field without testing things, you're going to get phone calls, and nobody likes to get called by the public to say, why am I sitting in traffic when normally I don't sit in traffic? And then the idea is very quickly, you can run this. This is run on servers that allow you to get the answers within 15, 30 minutes and understand the comparison between if I do this or if I do nothing, or if you have multiple different configurations of your scenario to see which scenario is the better scenario. Our updated UI allows you to actually on the map see side by side all the different metrics. It's a traffic simulation, vehicle-based simulation model. So it allows you to pretty much choose any traffic metric. So whether you want to look at speeds, delays, throughput, those metrics are all available. It's a GIS-based tool. And then also after that, you can also get the summary of the overall network. You might be hurting the one road, but in your general area, you're actually saving time compared to not doing anything. Because when we are doing some of these strategies, we do see that we're going to have some sort of impact on the traffic. So finally, really, the goal here is where we're going with this tool. This tool is something we're going to have an enhanced UI and allowing for the various TSMO strategies, and then also understanding the benefits, whether it's reducing congestion, whether it's improving fuel efficiency, whether it's environmental, and we can also do some level of safety analysis with this tool so that you can see how this thing, how your program's going to work. The other big piece of this is we have plans in place to extend it for the entire region covered by Metro Plan, and also to bring in other mechanisms for it. The end goal really being a UI that allows you to do this type of modeling, type of analysis on any type of day, looking down the future, looking at historical, however you want to do it, but without actually having to be a modeling nerd. You can get the results that you understand and that you can see and use, and you can, whether it's you, whether it's an intern, whether whoever it is, you can run multiple scenarios and really get a robust analysis of these strategies before you actually put them into the road and see what the benefits are. And this is a tool that's already in place. We're just going to be updating things so that it's more accessible to everybody. And that's that.
Wonderful. Questions, Gary?
How do we get our data to you so we can be at it?
Either through Eric or Jeremy, and we love data. So we would love to add any data. If your data, but if you're talking about traffic signal information, if it's in the controller, it would already be in the system. If you're planning new timing plans, you just need to let us know and we can import it into the system when it's not in the controller yet.
So Gary, I'll connect you with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a quick question. Thanks for the presentation. Two-part question. So one, how accurate is the simulation? What is the accuracy? And two, how do you measure that?
So it's accurate to about 85% over the whole area. We measure that by looking at the different counts, and also because it's tied to the real-time data, we also track it on a daily basis because we're bringing in the real-time data and seeing how that changes. The other big piece is looking at the travel times to make sure we're within, I think it's 15% or 2 minutes. And then also looking at the speed contours. So the speed contours are essentially, you take in the 15-minute speeds from INREX or here. I think for this region we use here, and then you compare it to the 15-minute speeds of the model, and then you get that flow. You can see the congestion build. You look at the full day and you see the congestion build, the pain points of both the real world and the model, and you have a visual audit to make sure you're within reason. One of the keys also to keep into account is the other piece of the analysis you're doing is it's not necessarily a specific day, but it's a day type, but it's also the fact that you're doing an apples to apples comparison, that you're using the same data set for your base as you are for your scenario. So you're getting that you're getting both an accuracy of what the delay is going to look like when you do your problem, but you're also getting that relative comparison of how much worse is it if I don't do this sort of thing. I don't know if I answered the question well or not. We use essentially the federal guidelines for model accuracy and calibration.
Okay. Any other?
It's kind of in the same line, but for like the local roads, how is the volume data getting collected? Because if we look at DOTs, Seminole counties, and urbans, they're drastically different volume numbers. For one of my roads, DOT in the county are about 5,000, but urban saying it's 1,600. So that's a drastic change on a local road.
Yes, that is.
So if you could.
So we do get some of the data from the traffic signal systems and from permanent count stations that are throughout the region. It is a slight gap. We are working with FDOT to sort of improve that. FDOT's got a much more robust data collection system now, so we'll get more data. Again, if you guys have additional data or additional sources that we can tap into, we do regularly update the model. So we're always looking for more data because, again, we can only calibrate versus what we kind of know. So some arterials, we have a good idea of the volume, maybe not an accurate idea, but we also know what the travel times and the speeds look like. So we try and combine both of those two where we don't have as much information on the actual count. But if you have count information, we love going to the source. Thanks.
Madam Vice Chair, Matthew, is it okay to share your presentation with the committee members?
Yes, there's
Okay.
no secrets in there, so.
Okay,
yes.
so I will send it out and with your contact information, so anyone that is interested in providing their data to Matthew for the model.
Or getting a demo or talking about when we can get you guys access to this tool and how to use it, we're glad to help.
I just have a quick question, understanding the relationship with, you know, what you presented here and I think District 5. So you're like in the TMC with District 5 and using this and helping them with
So-
scenario planning, or how does that work?
I'm in New York, but
Oh, okay.
but the system resides within District 5's servers and
Okay.
and is maintained by District 5.
I see. Okay. Who's the District 5 sort of project manager champion?
Tushar Patel.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, thank you.
I know. I was just looking for him and he left the room. so.
That's why I looked over there, but I'm like, he's hiding. Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, our final presentation this morning is on the City of Orlando drone application by Mr. Jacques Colon, City of Orlando.
Good morning. So just wanted to provide the TSMO committee with an update on a drone delivery application that came in for Central Florida, and you'll see what they mean by Central Florida versus what we think of as Central Florida. And so it will affect or could impact all of our municipalities. So Wing, which is a subsidiary of Amazon, or not Amazon, sorry, of Google, applied on the 19th for an FAA environmental assessment to conduct drone deliveries throughout Central Florida. And part of that was looking at historical resources, environmental impacts, how the operations will work. So right now, well, per the application, they proposed 4 different locations for drone delivery in Central Florida from 4 different Walmart stores. Initially, the drones can handle up to 5 pounds and extend up to 6 miles from each Walmart or each location, which is, until yesterday, when I started putting the circles around the locations, you don't realize just how far 6 miles is. So even if it's not directly in your municipality, it could still very easily serve your residents. And one of the key things for this, and I'll go into a little more detail, is with the way that they plan to operate, it will never land near people. All loading and unloading will take place while the drone is about 25 feet in the air. So it'll just lower a string with a hook on it. Somebody hooks the package on, it goes to your house and it lowers the package and automatically detaches it at your house. So the EA, the environmental assessment, comments were due back to the FAA on January 20th. If you want to see the full environmental assessment application, the link is on the bottom of the screen here. You can just also search FAA drone environmental assessment. That might be quicker, but also I'm perfectly happy to share the slides. So here's what the process, what it looks like, how the drones will operate. So as a customer, you place an order, usually online. So you could choose Instacart or Uber, whatever. The drones, if that's an opportunity, if you're in the area, you will be able to select drone delivery. The staff at the store will prepare the item for drone delivery, bring it to a loading area similar to like this, which would be in the parking lot of the Walmart. So the drone is sent a predetermined route. So it's their system would take care of it. And just want to be clear, this is for Wing specific and how they plan to operate. We've had different meetings with Drone Up and other providers. They haven't come in for approval to do this as part of a full 135 certification yet. And I think I'll get into that a little later, what that means. But this is all how Wing plans to operate. So the drone will then lift about 23 feet above the ground. As I mentioned, it'll lower a tether. They hook the package on, only up to 5 pounds. So you can't order all your dog food. Sorry, not yet. And then the tether and the package are reeled into the belly of the drone. And then it goes up to cruising altitude of about 150 to 300 feet to travel to the delivery location, 60 miles an hour. So it'll get to your house pretty quick. And one key thing that in our discussions with Wing, they wanted to really, as they look at that predetermined route, they want to, if you live near a neighbor who gets a lot of packages, they want to vary the approaches that they take to houses. So it's not just going over one house every single time. Spread the love. So that's that predetermined route to the delivery location. As it gets closer to your house, and right now it's only single family that they're looking at, it will descend to about 23 feet and lower the package to the property. Usually it's a driveway. They look for a picnic table size clear area is what Wing said that they're going to require. The package, just gravity, the way that it's hooked up to the line, gravity will detach it once it's on the ground. It reels it in and it goes right back to the nest to do the next delivery operation. So they have 2 different types of aircraft. So when we think of drones, these are pretty big. You can see the smaller drones, which would probably be most of what they've got, are about 4.5 feet long by 5 feet wide. So they're not small. About 11 pounds just the drone, 2.5, 3 pounds for payload. So about 15 pounds total. And both of these models are made primarily of foam. So they say it shouldn't be too much of a safety issue, but we all know anything that goes a certain speed is a safety concern. The larger vehicles, which they're still undergoing testing, 20 pounds, about 6 feet by 6 feet, but those can hold about 5 pounds. So they're looking at the larger vehicles, but they plan on starting with the smaller vehicles. So these are the initial 4 locations that they listed in their environmental assessment. As you can see, their map of Central Florida is a lot bigger than what we'll sometimes call Central Florida. So they are looking at all the way from the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic. So this is where they're seeking this area. As I mentioned, 4 locations. So on this list, and as we had a meeting with them last week, and they already mentioned an additional location on Kirkman for the Walmart over by the Valencia College off of Kirkman. So just because you don't necessarily see your Walmart on this list doesn't mean it's not under consideration, because they're looking for up to 150 nests across this Central Florida. Okay, so how does the nest actually work? So this is an example of a recently opened operation in Frisco, Texas. You'll see that right at the top of the screen, you can see a fenced-in area on the parking lot. This is pretty indicative of how they typically would set up. So it's a fenced area with a shipping container for drone storage, where the drones go to sleep. And power delivery, they're thinking a generator, but they want to have wired power, but it sounds like they want to get in faster than quicker than it would take to do the full electrical work. For our internal discussions with the city of Orlando, the way we expect to permit these, specifically at Walmart's, is as probably some type of site plan determination as an accessory use. There will be the need for a building permit and for the fence and an electrical permit for power connection. So that's just how the city is thinking through this. And one of the reasons why that specific process is because of the regulatory framework. So kind of going from federal all the way down, the federal government has sole approval powers for the drone certification, as well as the certification of the company as a air carrier under Part 135. So this is the same type of certification that more piloted aircraft would need to get to do these types of operations. And this allows them to do these types of operations beyond visual line of sight. So they don't have to have somebody with a controller watching it the whole way, which has been what some of the previous exemptions and whatnot have been for. Wing Aviation is already a Part 135 approved carrier. They are doing a lot of operations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And under current FAA rules, their expansion to Central Florida is what it's a major federal action, which is why they were required to do the environmental assessment. From the state level, one thing, and I'll talk about how our legal staff have interpreted this, but drone operations within Florida are governed by Section 330.41 Unmanned Aircraft Systems Act in state statute. And you'll see in Section 3 for regulation, all authority to regulate the operation of unmanned aircraft systems is with the state. Specifically, local jurisdictions may not withhold issuance of a building tax receipt, development permit, or other use approval to a drone delivery service, or enact or enforce an ordinance or resolution that prohibits a drone delivery service's operations based on the location of its drone port. I'll leave all of you to talk to your own attorneys on how that's handled in your jurisdiction. Generally, how we've so far looked at that is if it is a commercially zoned district, and there's some other language in the statute that I would point to, it's something that can be allowed, but it does not preclude us from doing other policies, rules that we would treat any use similarly. Not if it has nothing to do with it being a drone delivery service, such as it can't be on a site and take the whole parking lot, and then the primary use, there's no parking. Something kind of simple like that, but really, our hands are fairly tied to how the drones can be regulated as a use. And so what happened was all the comments were received to Wing in January. That's going back and forth with the FAA. They would like to start operations in the second half of this year. We have a lot of questions, and we've had continuing discussions with Wing about public outreach before operations. They mentioned in the environmental assessment that community engagement is a big part of how they want to operate or before they operate. Emergency procedures, so both if there's some kind of emergency with the drone, how's that handled and how are we notified our emergency operations folks? And then also talking to our police and fire, we may want to be able to advise them to steer clear of certain areas if there are fires, if there are, we're wanting a discussion about more flight restrictions over big events. So like downtown, we have the Pride Parade that draws a couple 100,000 people. Right now, we're not currently able to put in flight restrictions for that. We can for Pro Bowl and a lot of games, things at the Camping World. So looking at that, also making sure that there's a very clear point of contact with the company that you have questions or concerns, the city can give that over to the company. As I mentioned before, we don't have a lot of regulatory authority, so we want to make sure that the feedback gets to the parties that can address it. And then also FAA remote ID requirements. This is a requirement from the FAA that each drone really needs to just keep pushing out, this is who I am, this is where I am. And we see issues with that for personal drones. Not as concerned with these drones just because of the size and the commercial nature, but that's something that we keep looking at. And then even though they're looking at the drop-off locations right now just on single-family homes, we do have concerns in the future of making sure they're not blocking the right-of-way. They're not using city-owned parks and properties without proper approval as drop-off locations for packages. So there's a lot of questions. But while I've talked about advanced air mobility before, I think drones are definitely coming a little faster. And I would just encourage you all to take a look at the state statute. Just if an operation comes to you for a land use permit or a building permit, that you're prepared to kind of know how to start that process internally. So that's for drone delivery. Since I have the mic, one quick thing that I want to encourage everybody is the FDOT Aviation Office is hosting across the whole state advanced air mobility training for local policymakers as well as staff. So June 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be District 5. I looked this morning and only 50 out of 50 people have signed up. It's about a 2.5 hour course. There's 2 each day on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And it will be really an advanced air mobility 101 from the State Aviation Office. So I would encourage everybody to sign up for that. And I will make sure that a link to that gets over to you, Eric, so it can be shared with all. Thank you.
Awesome. Any questions? Yes.
Just in general, is this automated guidance systems or is this human guidance systems? Someone actually looking at the screen, or is a camera on the drone?
Nope, all automated. And they will do, I think, up to 400 operations a day per site. And one thing I didn't include here is the hours of operation. Their initial hours of operation, I believe, are 8 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. It's all in the environmental assessment application, but it's all automated. An operator can take over in case of need if the aircraft says, hey, something weird's happening. But nope, as you see in number 3, they just get a predetermined route and it does its thing.
Just a couple of quick questions follow up on that, because this is interesting, Zach. But say a family's out flying a kite in a park, you can't see that string. Is there flight limitations or altitude they have to maintain before they get to the destination?
They plan to operate at about 150 feet to get to and from.
So that may be one of those issues you have to overcome then dealing with people doing that type of thing, or other drones.
And the deconfliction with other drones, also other lower flying aircraft, that's a big question with the industry and something that we're trying to keep an eye on. In Dallas, there's 6 different drone operators that are trying to come together to answer that question. So Wing on its own, they can deconflict and make sure they don't fly into themselves. But once you get 2, 3 other operators, all in the same airspace, it becomes much more complex. And there hasn't been as much guidance from the FAA on some of that as folks would hope. So industry is really trying to figure out how to automate a lot of that.
Is there weather restrictions on usage?
They mentioned they won't fly over, I believe it's 30-mile-an-hour winds, and as well as heavy rain, but light rain, general breezy conditions didn't seem to affect.
Fascinating.
Any other question?
So many questions.
We can get coffee. Yeah.
Has Wing talked about geofencing sensitive areas such as public schools, our jails, military facilities?
Yes, so in the environmental assessment, there are schools are one of, and some of the military facilities are things that have been pre-identified as restricted, that they're looking at restricting operations. In terms of the exact, what constitutes a school, is it only public schools, private schools? All of that is undetermined, but that is something that they identified. And as I mentioned, we at the city would like to have more ability to designate critical infrastructure as well as where there's large crowds. We're really trying to figure out how we can do that within the current regulatory framework, but we'll learn together a little bit.
And you'd mentioned emergency response.
Yes.
Fire, but I can see Sheriff Mina being very upset if a drone delivery happens within a cordoned off area while he's providing operations. So there's a lot of details that need to be worked out. So
Yeah.
interested to see how that goes.
Well, and to that point, one thing that in talking to Orlando Police Department that they want to make sure doesn't happen is if there's, let's say, a standoff of some site, they don't want the person that's in the house doing a drone delivery just to distract or do something, right, for whatever reason. Also, we've talked, so, I mean, as long as it's under 3 pounds. But we've also experienced with even like our road closures, people trying to do Uber delivery for something they forgot at their tailgate. And we're having to turn people away. No, the road's closed even to Uber, sorry. And wanting to make sure that maybe we don't want drones doing tailgate deliveries and some of those types of things. So a lot to figure out.
So Jacques, thanks for the presentation. So it sounds like FAA is the only regulatory backstop in this. I mean, you've got some, like when we're talking emergency response or what actions is the city planning on taking or in terms of engaging and involvement with that regulatory framework? I mean, and what limitations? It sounds like you don't have a lot of leeway, like
if there
is it ultimately just up to FAA to answer some of these questions, or are there any other entities?
It's a lot of discussion right now. FAA and the city, we're having a lot of discussions with their next gen office, which handles a lot of the drone UAS work and advanced air mobility. There is already in place a relationship between, I'm guessing, most police departments and the FAA. They have local liaisons for drone incursions into restricted airspace and some of those things. But that is a much, that requires the drone to be broadcasting, hey, here I am. And then we have very limited powers of what we can do. So there is that relationship, but we need to expand. We're really looking to expand really from the life safety side of things, what we can do, what we're allowed to do. A lot of it will be, we are more limited because of, I think, state statute than FAA in terms of operations right now. So it's a conversation that needs to happen both at the state and FAA level.
I have a question. It sounds like you mentioned operations in Texas a couple different
Yes.
times. And perhaps those are more mature than what we've got going on here. What are a couple of sort of successes that they've seen there in Texas and some of the challenges they're working through? Are they similar to what we're bringing up?
So a lot of similar questions. Generally, I think a success is that there really haven't been any big issues. There haven't been collisions and those types of things documented yet. But just talking to the operators, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time to make sure that those things aren't happening. And even though they've been operating there, most of it has been, up until recently, somebody controlling a drone. And so it's been more, and the site in Texas, this one, I believe, opened in July last year, and there's 2 additional sites that just opened about a month ago. So it is still pretty new. The North Central Texas Council of Governments does a lot of work on drones and UAS and bringing the region together. So I'm waiting to hear back from them to learn a little bit more about how they're handling this. But it's a lot of task force work, getting everybody together. And like I said, I haven't heard any issues yet. So I think that's the success. But I don't have a lot of data.
Thank you. Any more questions for now? All right.
Madam
Oh,
Chair,
yes.
I'll send, Jock, is it okay to share your presentation?
100%.
Okay, as well as the information on the training.
Yes.
I'll send that out to the committee members.
Wonderful. Okay, we have 4 common presentations with the TAC meeting. For those who are available, we encourage you to stay for the TAC meeting to view the presentations. The presentations are not on the screen, so MPO planning process for 2025, status update on 2050 MTP, presentations on Metro Plan Orlando's Tracking the Trends program, and an update on presentation on electric vehicle readiness study. There are items under general information at tab 3 in your agenda packets. There's a list of upcoming meetings in your agenda. Some notable meetings are the Metro Plan Orlando Board will meet March 12th. The 2050 MTP Summit that was mentioned, April 9th. And the next TSMO meeting will be here, April 28th, at our normal time of 8:30. Are there any final comments from the members? Okay. We have our final public comment opportunity. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use the raise hand function. You'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic. After you are recognized, please state your name and an address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes or less. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
We have no hands raised online, Madam.
Okay, do we have any members of the public attending in person that wish to make a comment?
We have Mr. Jim Muzinski who would like to make a comment.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Jim Muzinski. I'm a resident of the city of Edgewood in Orange County here. And I wanted to bring to your attention an example of where the goals of your committee, it's a real world example where those goals for, I would call it common sense solutions for low cost and oftentimes maintenance and also improving safety. And this is in the city of Edgewood at the intersection of Holden Avenue, Orange Avenue, State Road 527, and Gatlin. About 2 years ago, Orange County decided that they were not going to realign the road that would have taken Holden Avenue. It would have veered south to go through Cypress Grove Park. Cypress Grove Park is on Holden Avenue, just a little bit west of Orange Avenue. The county voted unanimously 6-0 not to do that. What they did vote to pursue was to fix the traffic sensors in the intersection. When they did a review of the intersection, when the county did a review, they found out that, and I'm going by memory here, I think it was 4 or 5 of the 8 or 10 sensors that were in the asphalt were not working. They were broken. Afterwards, when they were kind of asked, well, how long had they been broken? They said probably for years. So this is what had caused a lot of problems at that intersection. And it's, in a sense, 2 intersections, Holden and Gatlin. They're a little bit offset. Now, this all came about because the city of Edgewood was pursuing a plan to realign the the road and have Holden go through Cypress Grove Park. Citizens objected and attended that meeting. My point is that the improvements that the county made in fixing and replacing those sensors, also restriping the road, adding a turn lane, lights, that has worked. Those improvements have worked. And if you wanted to see an example of where kind of the goals of your committee have worked, that's one of them. There's some other improvements with regard to trying to consolidate curb cuts of businesses. There right now is about 11 different curb cuts on either combined on both sides of Orange Avenue at those shopping centers and little strip mall. I think as was mentioned earlier with bike safety, that often is one of the reasons people that are walking or on bikes get hit and you have accidents. So there's more work to be done there, but I salute your committee for kind of what I would call common sense goals as to how you can improve things. The alternative was to wait 3, 5, 10 years for a project that probably would have cost millions of dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear. And I think why we all like being here once a month on Friday.
Right. And I just want to chime in on it. Thank you very much for that comment. My division, as well as traffic engineering, as well as FDOT and the city of Edgewood, all work together. There were a lot of passionate comments from the public, but in the end, we came up with something that was low cost, that was not very impactful to adjacent businesses, other than, better traffic mobility through that corridor. So really appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, my comment would be, and for years I felt this way, that we see these presentations about all the updated technology and how we can improve things. But if you take away the simple things like the sensors for the traffic signals because they're not working, it doesn't matter really what you do. It's not gonna improve things. So thanks for the recognition on the, and thanks to you guys for taking care of it.
Very good. Any other comments from our members here? Okay. I think at this time then, it's no further business. We stand adjourned.